Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how this whole situation with the used car market declining a massive amount and new car sales also declining might actually somewhat be a good thing for some dealers, believe it or not. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more content just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post videos every single day. Let's get into it. So just to quickly recap, the situation that we're in currently doesn't look all that good for dealerships. Again, on the used car market side of things, wholesale values have declined by a massive amount. So this puts a lot of dealers in a situation where they have used cars that they just simply overpaid for because of the value loss. And so, well, they're going to have to lose money if they want to get rid of that inventory. And dealers never want to lose money. They always want to make as much money as possible. And then on the new car side of things, demand has diminished a massive amount. Most new car manufacturers have just simply priced out so much of their customer base, and so dealers now have all of this new car inventory that they just simply cannot sell. And I can tell you anecdotally, when I go to dealers, I've seen a pretty big shift in the inventories with new car dealers, where they used to have a bunch of used cars and then a few new cars, and now it's completely flip-flopped, where they have a few used cars and a ton of new cars. And so either way you look at it, this whole market situation is not great for dealers because they're going to be selling less used cars, and when they do sell used cars, well, they're going to be selling them at a loss, and they're going to just not sell as many new cars. And you know, if they want to sell them, they're going to have to again sell them at a loss to convince people to buy. But before we dive into this, I quickly want to talk about something called tax loss harvesting. Now, this is something you probably hear all the time when people talk about stocks, where basically an investor will sell some of their losing positions and then also sell some of their winning positions at the same time, so then they can offset their gains with losses so that they ultimately don't pay any taxes on their portfolio. And this actually also applies to businesses as well. Dealerships are obviously businesses, and so they can actually use this to benefit them. And so what some businesses will do is they will strategically spend massive amounts of money right at the same time that they're making massive profits, so that they can offset those profits with the losses, so then they can avoid paying taxes. And this is very important because a lot of dealers are taking this right out of the book and applying this to the current situation. And so I think you guys can see where I'm going with this. If we look at the timeline, well, at the end of 2021, the car market pretty much peaked in about November, just alongside the stock market. And after that, everything started to slowly decline, and emphasis on slow. It wasn't like a cliff. And so the first half of 2022 was actually pretty good for car dealers because, again, it was a slow decline. So they were still making record profits, which means that they now have these record profits that they can offset with record losses at the end of the year. Because like I said, used car lots have a bunch of inventory that they overpaid for, and frankly, new car dealerships as well. And then the new car dealers have all of these new vehicles that are just way too expensive for the current market conditions with interest rates and everything else that's going on. And so now is a perfect time to discount inventory a massive amount, take some losses, offset the gains they made at the beginning of the year, and basically wipe out their taxes. And the evidence for this is pretty clear, because what we're starting to see is new car dealerships are starting to slash prices, especially for people that ask. And it's not like you have to be a master negotiator. Like, if you go and say, hey, give me your best offer, you'd be surprised. Some dealers are like, yep, we'll knock $10,000 off the MSRP on this vehicle. And then when it comes to used cars, what we're seeing is that dealers are flooding auctions with used cars. They are trying to get rid of everything. They still have those cars posted as retail pieces on their websites, but then they also have them posted on wholesale websites, and they're also just continually throwing them at auction, hoping that someone picks them up, and they're selling them at massive losses. And again, if these dealers weren't as cash heavy as they are right now, then it wouldn't really work out. But they made tons of money throughout 2020 and 2021 and the beginning of 2022. And so they're in a perfect position to do this. And so by the very end of this year, it might shake out to where these dealers will be in a pretty good position because they will have gotten rid of all the bad inventory that they have, especially on the used car side of things. And they will put themselves in a position where, as a business, they don't really have to pay taxes because they'll technically, maybe lose money or break even, whatever it may be. And so at this point, you might be asking, well, Ben, what are the dealers going to do if they don't sell these cars by the end of the year? And this is actually all a part of the master master plan. So it looks like these dealers plan on losing money in 2023 on purpose, because most dealers don't think that this whole car market collapse situation is going to be super long term. Most of them see it as a 12 to 18 month thing. And so what that means is they are planning accordingly. And so there are a lot of dealers that are kind of, obviously planning on making as much money as they can next year, but also being okay if they do lose some money next year. Because what that means is that they'll get a tax credit that they can then carry into the 2024 sales year. And this is really important because most dealers think that 2023 is basically going to be an absolute poop show. They're not going to sell that many cars, and they're probably going to lose money on a lot of the cars they sell because they're going to be focusing on rebalancing their inventory throughout 2023 as we have more declines in the overall car market. And with that credit they build up because of those losses, well then if they have a really good 2024, which is what most dealers think is going to happen because they think that's when the economy is going to kind of shift into its next phase where things are going to be kind of more normal again, well then they can make record profits again and then offset those profits with that big tax credit that they built over the course of the 2023 sales year. And if they, have some left over from the 2022 sales year, for some reason, they lose money at the end of 2022. And this is something that is a big piece of conversation for a lot of dealership owners and used car managers, frankly. It's basically this ongoing conversation that, happens on a daily basis with certain dealers. Like there are some dealers that literally have daily meetings between the owner, the general manager, and the used car manager because they're like, okay, what is the best possible way for us to rebalance this inventory because we have inventory that we overpaid for and the market's not going to go back up. Like most dealers at this point accept that the market is not going to go back up in price. There are some that are saying, oh, prices will go back up. And it's like, it's a pipe dream at this point. And so this is, again, it's all part of that strategy to fully rebalance everything. And so it is a gamble. It is definitely a risk. But if things pan out like what dealers think they're going to do, then it will definitely pay off. And it could be one of those self-fulfilling prophecies where dealers basically focus on just getting rid of inventory. And so they sell it as cheap as possible over the course of 2023. And then once 2024 rolls around, they go and focus back on profits. So then they stop discounting cars like they used to. And so then it kind of forces the market into the situation that they want it to be in. So is this master plan actually going to pan out for dealers? And I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. I think that new car dealers are going to be able to fare a lot better. And I know I say that consistently from video to video, but the reality is new car dealers are just so much more profitable compared to used car lots. And that's why everyone wants a new car franchise. They definitely they always fare better whenever anything gets rough. And so, yeah, I think that the new car dealers that are taking this approach are going to be just fine. Now, with the used car lots, it's definitely a much bigger gamble because if they rebalance their inventory too soon and the car market declines even more, and then they have to take even bigger losses, then they might put themselves in a position where they've just lost too much money and they simply go out of business. And so it's going to be a thing where they're going to have to really time the market to be able to put themselves in a position where they won't go out of business because of the losses. So I think that it makes sense. I think that it's a smart move by certain dealers, but if I were personally a dealer, I would be so careful because, again, the biggest thing is just rebalancing too early. If you get rid of if you blow out all your inventory now and then just go and buy up a bunch of new stuff and just try to, again, fully time the market, then, well, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And now finally, how can you use this information to help you out as a buyer? Well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Dealers are going to be more and more willing to make deals as time goes on. Now, I do think that the end of this year is actually a pretty decent time to get a car deal. However, I still think that the beginning of next year to the middle of next year is going to be a much better time, especially for used cars. New cars right now, the deals are pretty dang solid. But used cars, it just depends on the car. But, over the next 3 to 6 months, those values are definitely going to continue to decline. And dealers, like I said, are going to be blowing out inventory with these used cars as they attempt to rebalance over the next year. And so, yeah, I think for someone that is looking for a used car, it potentially could be a pretty good buying time. And what I would do if I was a buyer in this market is, again, I would be extremely patient and I would be pretty pushy with the dealer when it comes to pricing. I wouldn't, basically go to a dealer and give them an offer and then the dealer tells me no and then just go, oh, okay, I guess they don't want to do that. I would be like, okay, here's the deal. this is what I'm willing to pay, and just keep pushing it. If it's a car that you want, then just push it. If it's something that you ultimately don't want that bad, then yeah, take a step back and go and find another dealer. But for all those people that continue to comment, oh, well, my local dealer is charging this much over sticker or this much, it's like, okay, those dealers might be asking that much, but I can tell you, outside of a few select markets, they're not getting that anymore. People aren't paying that. They're hoping that someone's dumb enough to pay that. But they understand the market just like all of you, and if you really want that car, just give them an offer. Like, it never hurts to give them an offer. If they have a car for $4,000 over MSRP, then say, hey, I'll buy it for $2,000 under MSRP. And you know what? Maybe they'll tell you to go pound sand, but ultimately it never hurts to ask. And so that's how I navigate this situation, and that's how this whole thing can help you guys out. I know it's a little bit jumbled at the end, but anyways, I'll see you.